there has been no judge or prosecutor with knowledge of statutory law present in the remote area of Warab State of South Sudan, leaving residents reliant on customary courts and military detention processes to hold perpetrators of crimes accountable. An initiative by the United Nations Mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, hopes to address this as it helps strengthen the judicial system in areas where formal justice has been absent for far too long. Marco Chan, acting head of legal administration in the Warab State, says the lack of judicial officers has led to many challenges in the area of prosecution.
Lack of judges also is a problem. Now in across Boreal, Warab State, there are two counties that are no judge. One is Boreal East, we are in now. Another one is Tony East. There are no judge. And there are no prosecutor. Because of lack of judges and lack of prosecutor, lack of accommodation, there are no office. There are not office, there is no building, there are no all this. So a lot of challenges we can face it in the area of the prosecutors.
The impact of this absence of judicial officers and processes was clear when a rule of law team serving with UNMISS conducted a review of outstanding legal cases, discovering wrongful and arbitrary detentions, false identification of alleged perpetrators and arrested persons, and incorrect sentences, with released prisoner Bagmaya Jen being one of them.
We have many challenges, such as the fact that we don't have office spaces, especially with the rainy season coming up. We lack appropriate infrastructure for these processes.
The case review, conducted in collaboration with the Kuajok High Court, provided immediate relief to many prisoners who have spent many months or years behind bars without even being aware of the reasons for their detention. At least 40 prisoners were released on the spot without any need to return for due processing in planned court cases, while another focus of the case review initiative was the reformation and strengthening of collaboration with customary courts, which have been facing severe resource and staffing constraints, requiring them to conduct their processes out in the open under trees and to record cases on handwritten pieces of paper, which Chief Manutwa Duyong, customary court chiefs, points out to the lack of infrastructure. In South Sudan, it is common for there to be a disconnect between customary and formal courts, especially in more remote areas. But in this rare case, where the Greater Bahr el Ghazal region has written and agreed upon customary law, the customary court's chiefs embrace the arrival of a judge and public prosecutor, seeing it as an opportunity to collectively discuss challenges and opportunities for collaboration and learning. Lena Ellen Becker, Rule of Law Officer at UNMISS, says she was surprised by this collaboration between court chiefs and customary courts.
I was positively surprised by the way that the second grade magistrate was received in Lietnom, especially by the customary courts, because in some contexts we see that there is a bit of a friction between customary courts and county courts, where the customary courts sometimes feel that the statutory courts are overstepping and taking away their cases and undermining their importance. But here we saw that the judge got a very positive reception.
At the end of the day, the previously overcrowded prison was left with just 9 inhabitants while awaiting the arrival of prisoners from other locations and appropriate court rulings by the Kuajok High Court judge during the long-awaited UNMISS initiative, which was stretched over 2 weeks. With this anonymous female prisoner inmate looking forward to returning home.
When I go home, I will take care of my garden again. With rainy season starting, everything will grow and I'll be able to continue my farming and harvesting.
Initiatives like this not only strengthen the judicial system, but also bring hope for those who have been unlawfully detained, that they can reclaim their lives, enjoy their freedom, and seize the opportunity to build a better future. For Channel Africa News, I am Tutongo Bene in Johannesburg.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It is 12 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, Malawi's Ministry of Justice has filed papers before the High Court in Lilongwe opposing a review application launched by a self-proclaimed prophet, Shepherd Bushiri, and his wife Mary against their extradition to South Africa. The couple is challenging a ruling by the chief resident magistrate in Lilongwe in March this year that ordered that they be surrendered to South Africa. For more on this, we are joined by our correspondent in Malawi, George Mangwa. George, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
A very good afternoon to you too.
Now, George, what does this mean for the Bushiris now that the Ministry of Justice has filed opposing papers?
What this means is that the Bushiris have to wait a little bit longer before their bail application to the High Court is heard. Apparently, the High Court did set 5 August this year when the bail application is going to be heard and the challenge to the extradition. And the same High Court did ask the Ministry of Justice through Director of Public Prosecution to also furnish their challenge to why the Bushiris do not want to be extradited to South Africa based on the ruling that was issued in March that they have to be surrendered to South African authorities for them to answer quite a number of charges. We're talking about the money laundering, forgery, and maybe bail contravention itself. So that is why they have supplied or filed this application challenging the bail application and also why they should not be extradited to South Africa.
Let's speak about some of the reasons that they've given as to why they should not be sent back to South Africa to face the charges that have been put against them, which seemingly they believe are not true.
For the Bushiris, through their lawyer, Wapona Kita, I have spoken with him this morning, assenting to the fact that they feel that the security of their client, the Bushiris, will not be safe. And they also want that the witnesses that have, pointed fingers at the Bushiris, that they committed those crimes, have to avail themselves in the court of law here in Malawi for security reasons. And they don't want it to be virtually conducted. So those are some of the challenges or some of the issues that the Bushiris are saying they are not very safe and they're not even willing to cooperate to be extradited to South Africa. So it's just fear over their security concerns and that the witnesses have to be present first here in Malawi before they are extradited to South Africa.
And what's the reaction on the ground when it comes to the citizens of Malawi and the Bushiris who seem to have a lot of support?
Of course, in terms of government authorities, I should begin with the Minister of Justice. This is quite clear that the Minister of Justice, through the government of Malawi and that of South Africa, are working hand in hand legally to ensure that there is transparency legally that the Bushiris be extradited to South Africa, bearing in mind the fact that South Africa also said that they are going to oppose any appeal by the Bushiris so that they are not extradited. So this is just one of them. As for the people on the ground, quite a number of people, more especially those people that follow him, regarding his church, they are saying this issue is just like they are not the authorities here in Malawi are, stabbing back on their prophet, who they say has done and is doing quite a number of charity work here. So you can see a clear picture that there is 2 different dimensions to this whole. The government is playing a good game with the South African government, but when you look at the followers, they're saying or they're blaming the government of Malawi to say, why are you extraditing your own citizen who is also playing a good role in terms of charity works? But a mere person on the ground who is not affiliated to whatsoever religious grouping that Bushiris belong, they say this has to be quickly done, handled, so that at least it's history, because the feel is wasting people's time here in Malawi.
Well, George, I guess the 5th of August, it is a date, and we'll all be looking forward to that very quickly as it happens. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. That's our correspondent in Malawi, George Mango, joining us on the line. And today our question on hashtag Africa Update asks, should the Bushiris be extradited to face charges, or should they remain in Malawi and be free citizens? Now, should the Bushiris be extradited to face charges, or should they remain in Malawi as free citizens of Malawi? Share your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. Send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Us.
We are on OpenView's audio bouquet. Channel 628.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. I'll stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. And don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective. The Upside. Your afternoons just got even better.
Bantu Biko Street by Simpiwe Dana. Ndi ready. Simpiwe, 20 years in song. So what emotions come up when you hear that, hey, you've been doing this for 20 years now?
It almost feels like no time has passed, eh? I just, I know obviously time has passed, but I don't feel it. Even about my age, I'm 45. I always get shocked when I think, oh my God, in 5 years' time, I'll be 50. Because for me as an artist, it's almost like when it comes to certain things, time stands still. And as a result, you find that a lot of artists are very childlike, which, it helps them to always have a fresh approach to issues.
I tell you what, I'm feeling healed just by that.
We take no sides, none whatsoever. We are the Upside. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
It is 21 after 12 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. There are claims of a human rights crisis in the Republic of Congo. It comes after Lassie Mbwiti, a Congolese political figure, historian and author, was brutally assaulted together with his wife. And to tell us more, we are joined on the line by Jurel Lowemba, an activist and member of Amnesty International. Jurel, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. But just disturbed, I saw some of the visuals that you sent us here at Channel Africa with regards to this particular story that we're focusing on. Tell us more about what you're calling a human rights crisis in Congo.
Okay, what I'm actually calling a human rights crisis in Congo is something that is actually close to what happened during World War II, right? As we speak right now in Congo Brazzaville, none of the human rights charts are being respected. Okay, from the regular citizen to the political leaders and activists. Whenever you dare to speak something, complain about something that is not actually being done properly. If you say there is no water, there is no electricity, you will be arrested without any judgment, taken to the police, and the next day people will find out that you've been killed. That's how bad the situation is right now in Congo Brazzaville.
Mm-hmm. Now, we understand that there are over 240, it's rather 250 documented cases of arbitrary detention and torture last year in 2024. Who have these been against, and where are those people today?
Okay, the people who are affected by all these human rights violations, they are all actually living in all the departments of the country. All right. So recently we were busy dealing with a case of a retired man who actually made a social cry on social media, crying because he has twins and he was relying on his two kids to take care of him because now he's retired. The two twins were arrested by someone connected to the regime of Denis Sassou Nguesso. And then a few days after investigating, they found out that one of the twins actually died. And do you know where that person died? He died in the midst of the court. The judge asked them to carry the body, leave it outside of the tribunal, and nobody attended to the body. The young man died in front of everybody in the place that is supposed to represent justice. This is how bad it is. And this is not just happening with normal citizens, it's also happening with people involved in activism. I know a lot of my fellow colleagues in activism that have been arrested. There is one of them who managed to escape. He's now in France. He's been tortured for several months. And recently we have the case of Lassie Bwiti, a political leader who used to live in the United States, who heard the message of the government, because that's what they do. They will send letters to different governments around Africa and around the world, telling them that there is no war in our country, there is peace, there is prosperity, and we want our people to come back home. And Lassie Bwiti, a young man, successful in the United States, he was on offer, living his life in the United States. He believed in that false speech. He decided to leave everything and went back to Congo Brazzaville. At first, he started working with the government, okay, the political party of the current president, because he believed in what they said. But after a few years, he realized that it was all a lie. He was witnessing how the violation of human rights were being perpetrated. People cannot talk. The money is being looted. People being killed without no one being actually called and worried about the action. So he decided to leave the political party of the current regime, and he started his own political party in order to stand against the oppression that is happening in Congo Brazzaville.
Now, Joel, you're also speaking up and letting the world know what is taking place in Congo Brazzaville. Are you safe?
I am not safe because right now I'm overseas, right? Even while living in overseas, we still receive their threats. As I'm talking to you right now, I've already received death threats from people from the government simply because I actually gave a report, factual report on what's happening in Congo Brazzaville. We actually launched the campaign. Congo Brazzaville actually, the money used to run the country is mainly dependent on oil production, right? The oil production comes from the region where I come from, which is Pointe-Noire, Kwilu. That the money is being used right now. All the oil deals are controlled by the presidential family. The president, his children, and the close members of his family. All right. So now, when actually we try to speak up against the mismanagement of funds, the looting, they buy houses overseas. They have thousands of houses, like hundreds of houses all around the world. When you speak against that, you become afraid, and they will actually try to silence you. So that's the reason why we have decided to speak up, because if no one speaks up, there will be no change.
What sort of reaction are you getting from the international community?
All right. So far regarding the situation of Lassie Bwiti, when he was abducted, because remember, he has been actually he opened several cases, all right, to report the fact that he was being threatened. He was receiving death threats. He has been assaulted several times, all right, but all the cases were left without any follow-up. No action was taken until the day he was abducted. And when he was abducted, his wife was beaten. They almost tried to rape his wife in front of the children. Just imagine the trauma that the kids are going through right now. The man was abducted, kidnapped. They tortured him. They removed his teeth, Lulu. They removed his teeth. Then they tortured his private part. So while it was happening, we launched a campaign. We launched the campaign in order to request his release. We sent letters to the French embassy, and we actually contacted some media. The campaign actually received some international attention because it was reported by TV5 Monde, one of the biggest French TV channel. It was reported by Africa News as well. And then under that pressure, the government was forced to release him, and he was thrown next to a river in a state that you cannot actually describe. The man was almost dead. And you know what's worse? Before releasing him, they poisoned him.
And where is he now?
So right now he is in an hidden place. So we are actually doing everything in order to have him evacuated outside of Congo Brazzaville. Because despite the fact that he has been released, the Minister of Communication never actually, while he addressed this issue, he never showed any form of empathy. Because he's supposed to represent the entire nation and every citizen. Until now, they haven't taken any action. They haven't approached his wife. They haven't launched any investigation in order to find out what really happened. And that's simply because they know that they are behind what happened. And that's the sad truth. So we reached out to the embassy of the United States in Congo Brazzaville. We reached out to the French embassy. We reached out to the Secretary of the United Nations.
And what response are you getting? Are they willing to assist?
So right now we're still busy on the negotiation process. We're still negotiating and then finalizing everything. So we actually expect any of them to respond and actually give a green light.
Yeah. Well, Jarrell, we have run out of time and are going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. For the explicit coverage by our guest, and for that very emotional. That's Jarrell Wemba, an activist and a member of Amnesty International, joining us on the line. Our news headlines up next with Ralani Tulo.
SABC News headlines: The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Good afternoon. Making headlines, the founder of the Institute for Security Studies, Dr. Jackie Cilliers, has labelled as irresponsible and unfortunate comments that South Africa faces a potential coup risk. This after Minister in the Presidency for Security, Kubuzo Chabeni, on Tuesday revealed that the country's intelligence services had identified potential threats of a coup d'etat. Mozambique has reported a spike in Mpox virus cases in the past few days. A report from the National Directorate of Public Health released earlier this week confirmed 11 new infections, though no fatalities have been recorded so far. And finally, South Korea's President Lee Jae-myung will set up a new investigation into the Halloween crowd crush, which killed 159 people in Seoul in 2022. Nearly 200 more were injured when large crowds packed into a narrow street in the Itaewon district of the city. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News headlines: The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
In our sports, this hour we begin with football news as part of the final preparations for the 2024 Total Energies African Nations Championship. CHAN two-time champions DR Congo will embark on a high-intensity training camp in Algeria, where they are also scheduled to face the host nation in a crucial pre-tournament friendly. Following a short camp in Kinshasa from the 16th of July to the 20th, head coach Otis Ngoma and his 36-man home base squad will travel to Algeria from the 21st of July to the 30th for the decisive phase of their build-up to CHAN 2024, which kicks off on the 2nd of August across Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. The highlight of the Algeria camp will be a marquee friendly match against the Algerian national team, one of Africa's top footballing nations. And the match offers the Leopards a perfect dress rehearsal ahead of what promises to be a fiercely competitive group stage campaign. DR Congo are drawn in Group A, widely regarded as the group of death, alongside co-hosts Kenya, Morocco, Angola and Zambia. Now on to cricket news. Proteas betting consultant Ashwell Prince has blamed the early wickets for their 21-run loss to New Zealand in the second match of the T20 Tri-Series in Harare. Chasing 174 for the win, South Africa lost the wickets of Deandre Pretorius, Ruben Herman, Reza Hendricks in quick succession for just 50 runs, and this, according to the former opening batter, was their downfall against the Black Caps. They ended up being bowled out for 152 in just over 18 overs at the Harare Sports Club.
No, I thought it was gettable. It was a good pitch. We obviously lost a few wickets early on, which put us up against it. We managed to sort of get something going while Dioval Brevis was out there. It was always a chance, but we just kept losing wickets all the way through and eventually fell just short. We didn't get any rhythm going really with our batting, particularly early on in the batting department. And I think that's quite key when you're chasing a score. Just getting some sort of rhythm going in the batting lineup, get a partnership early on. And obviously, if you don't do that, you're kind of behind the 8 ball and you're always trying to catch up.
Prince did, however, concede that they had put out a fairly new team to test various combinations. It was a vastly inexperienced lineup with Pretorius, Herman, Senuran Manunsami and Dioval Brevis, all with less than 10 caps combined.
I think today's lineup was maybe a little bit experimental as well in terms of left-right combinations, all those type of things that you try and put in place to try and maximize the short boundary. Next time we play might be in the middle of the pitch. You don't make a decision like that. So it'll be different. Next game, you play what's in front of you, and we know that we have the firepower to win every game.
And finally, with tennis news, world number one, Aryna Sabalenka, has withdrawn from the WTA Canadian Open tournament in Montreal due to fatigue. The 27-year-old from Belarus, runner-up at the Australian and French Opens, comes off semi-final runs at Wimbledon and Berlin and the titles at Madrid and Miami. Two players have withdrawn from the 2025 National Bank Open, Aryna Sabalenka due to fatigue and Paula Badosa due to an injury. For any sports stories you would like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lingwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. The Morning Switch Weekend with the Shy Guy.
Matuka Wanji Nonse, Zukani, the Shy Guy, a Morning Switch.
Have you ever listened to a song and then it gives you goosebumps? Cause it takes you way back in the 80s. My goodness. Hey, baby. You hear Yvonne Chaga Chaga there. I wanna talk to the DJ. And then the DJ goes like, hey, baby, I've got you on the other side. Huh? There were no WhatsApps then, right? There were no sliding in the TMs at the time. Oh, man.
Your weekend mornings are activated with the Shy Guy on the Morning Switch. business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Good afternoon. I'm Nosipo Zuma. In your business news this hour, Zimbabwe's Kuvimba Mining House will begin construction of a $270 million lithium concentration plant at its Sandawana mine in the third quarter of this year. Kuvumba CEO Trevor Bernard says the commissioning will start in early 2027. The state-owned miner is partnering with two Chinese metals giants to build the 600,000 metric ton per year lithium concentrator. The two firms will build and operate the plant for a period of 5 years. The South African Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says the Compact for Africa, which was launched in 2017 under the chairmanship of South Africa, has grown into a dynamic initiative that has mobilized over $191 million in private capital. Now, this was initiated under the Germany G20 presidency to promote private investment in Africa. Godongwana says the Compact for Africa presents opportunities for the continent to grow its economy.
While the continent is rich in opportunity, it continues to face significant challenges, ranging from infrastructure deficit and climate vulnerability to constrained fiscal space and limited access to long-term private capital. In this context, the Combat with Africa initiative remains a promising platform for fostering reform-driven investment partnership between African countries and the private sector.
The World Bank President AJ Banga says Africa has all the resources to meet its energy needs. However, the continent needs investment. Banga says this is where the private sector comes in, as it is the engine to grow the economy. Banga was speaking at the G20 Compact for Africa opening side event at the G20 Fourth Finance and Central Bank Deputies meetings taking place in Durban in South Africa.
The private sector is the engine of job creation. The private sector accounts for 90% of all employment, most of it through small businesses. Working to create the conditions that allow all businesses to thrive is what we're trying to do. And that is the point that Duncan was saying. What's the practitioner doing? Because the private sector cannot succeed on its own. It needs the right conditions to thrive.
South Africa's leading special risk insurer, Sasria, says it's made use of cutting-edge data analytics to predict unrest, identify risk hotspots, and help mitigate crises before they escalate. Now, this is in light of growing economic uncertainty and social unrest in the country. Sasria's executive manager for stakeholder management, Muzi Dladla, explains the measures Sasria has taken to mitigate these risks.
So there are two things that we needed to do. The first one is we needed to start investing in social sciences and psychology as well. So we are appointing psychologists, for an example, so that we can understand the behavior of the individuals that we are insuring. Because remember, we insure the behavior of individuals who are disgruntled. So understanding their behavior is one of the key things. And then we also then use technology, such as artificial intelligence, machine learning tools as well, so that we can be able to use that as an aggregate shifter in terms of predicting and understanding how the behavior might turn out.
And finally, South Korea's top court has today upheld a not guilty verdict for the chairman of Samsung Electronics, J.Y. Lee, backing two lower court rulings clearing him of accounting fraud and stock manipulation related to an $8 billion merger in 2015. The Supreme Court's verdict permanently removes a long-running legal distraction for Lee as Samsung plays catch up in a global race to develop cutting-edge AI chips. The verdict upheld an appeals court's ruling dismissing all the charges in the case involving the merger a decade ago between two Samsung affiliates, Samsung C&T and Chail Industries. A lower court last year had also cleared Lee of the charges. Your financial indicators: one US dollar in Nigeria is trading at 152.27 naira. In Botswana, it's 13 pula 29. Kenya, the dollar is trading at 128 shillings 60, and in Zambia, it's 22 kwacha 85. The BRICS countries: $1 in Brazil is trading at 5 real 56. Russia is 78 rubles 16. India is 85 rupees 91, China at 7 yuan 17, and in South Africa $1 is trading at 17 rand 87. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound and 84 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is trading at $3,328 and platinum at $1,414 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil is at $68.33 a barrel. Now, for any business news stories you would like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I'm Nosipho Zuma.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Thank you to Nosipho Zuma with our business news, and it is 12:43 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Now, in the wake of explosive allegations linking senior police officials to organized crime, South African legal expert advocate Zola Majavu has urged caution. Majavu has weighed in on the controversy surrounding the KwaZulu-Natal province's police commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi's public claims warning against premature judgments and highlighting the potential damage to law enforcement credibility. Majavu says while the allegations are serious and must be thoroughly tested, the manner in which they were made has exposed deep divisions within the police service. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe has more.
South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced the establishment of a judicial commission of inquiry to probe the allegations of criminal infiltration into law enforcement agencies in South Africa last Sunday. This action comes after the grave allegations against Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and Deputy Police Commissioner Major General Shadrack Sibia by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, the South African Police Service Provincial Commissioner for KwaZulu-Natal, about links to a sophisticated criminal syndicate were ventilated in a media briefing. Advocate Zola Majavu has provided his legal opinion on the decision taken by the president.
I will be guarded in my response because the president has already announced steps and I don't want to be seen to be preempting that. But firstly, those allegations are serious to a point that they should not be left untested. At the moment, they remain allegations. But the unfortunate upside of the manner in which the allegations were made and publicized had an unintended consequence of placing serious doubt in the law enforcement agencies. And I'm not saying those who chose to speak out the way they did shouldn't have. I'm simply trying to lament the manner in which it was done because it laid bare the divisions in law enforcement agencies, which in my view should have been managed domestically and in a manner that does not erode public confidence.
Majavu says perception and reality are not one and the same thing, while siding with the president's decision on the commission of inquiry.
Because remember, in the world we live in, perception is everything, reality is something else. Now, I do believe that the accident acted correctly to say, let me announce a commission of inquiry which will get to the bottom of these allegations. Either those allegations will be founded or unfounded, or there may well be other issues that he might be advised on. Close the shortcomings that are clearly playing themselves out in the law enforcement agencies.
Furthermore, the South African legal expert warned the public to always refrain from jumping into conclusions before fact-checking to avoid causing serious reputational damage. He says due processes must be allowed to take its courses and praised South Africa's constitutional democracy.
But I think we should allow that particular process to unfold. We must be very slow to tarnish people's images without substantive evidence, because what will happen in the event where some people are found not to have been in the wrong after their names have been paraded in the manner they were? Of course, if the allegations are founded, then the rule of law must apply and they must face the full might of the law. But I think we should be happy that we live in a constitutional democracy where anyone can feel free to express themselves, and where allegations of this nature surface, we have constitutionally entrenched instruments to enable us to get to the bottom of this. Because remember, some people are calling for the minister's head, but what if the allegations are not substantiated? You would have destroyed someone.
With South Africa known to be a country of commissions of inquiry without tangible results, after recommendations, some citizens have criticized this decision. Pumuzo Mokhwati, a Johannesburg City resident, is having none of it. He says justice favors the rich and is calling for equal justice.
We are led by the criminals, and this inquiry of the commission is a proof that our country's justice is for the poorest citizen in the country. And this would also threaten the whistleblower who want to expose the corruption. This means that whistleblowers are no longer protected. That's why we are also calling for the president to make sure that each and every citizen, poor or rich, must get equal justice.
Political analyst Dr. Shingai Mutizwa Mangiza also weighed in on the matter, calling the president's decision curious, weak, and indecisiveness.
The decision by President Cyril Ramaphosa to place Minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave and appoint, albeit in a temporary capacity, Minister Gwede Mantashe of the Energy Department in an acting position until Firoz Kachalia can assume that position, I think is a rather curious decision. But I think fundamentally what it does is it communicates a certain degree of weakness, should I say, and indecisiveness on the part of the presidency in this instance.
Just a week ago, President Ramaphosa fired Andrew Whitfield from the opposition Democratic Alliance as Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry for undertaking an international visit to the U.S. without the permission of the president. Shingai sees a contradiction in these two scenarios. However, he acknowledges that the allegations are still to be tested.
In this instance, whilst of course we understand that the revelations made by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, Police Commissioner of KZN, were made whilst President Ramaphosa was in Brazil attending a BRICS summit, and that he needed to apply his mind, I think any observers who looked at these two situations would really see a stark contradiction and would really begin to question the resolve of the president to actually deal with this. Whilst it's understandable that of course at this particular point in time the revelations and claims made by Police Commissioner Mkhwanazi remain at this time still just allegations that have yet to be proven in a court of law.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
The UN Secretary General has expressed deep concern over the violence in southern Syria. Now, this happened in the Zure majority area of Suaida governorate, with reports of powerful Israeli airstrikes shaking Damascus. Now, accordingly, the Israeli military is targeting a Syrian government military compound in the capital, as well as targets near the Syrian presidential compound, as part of efforts to protect the targets near the Syrian presidential compound, as part of efforts to protect the Druze community. Now, the community straddles both sides of Israeli-occupied Golan Heights after Syria's military reportedly joined Bedouin militia in clashes with the Druze, an ethno-religious minority among the Arab citizens of Israel, Syria and Lebanon. Now, Sharon Bryce Peace reports that a new ceasefire announced between the Druze community and the Syrian government is being closely watched.
A dramatic strike witnessed on Syria's military headquarters in Damascus after days of clashes in southern Syria that erupted Sunday between armed Bedouin groups and Druze militias that has now drawn in the security forces of both the Syrian and Israeli governments, with reports that several dozens have already been killed. The UN Secretary General spokesperson Stefan Dujarric.
The Secretary General is deeply concerned over the continued violence that we have seen in the Druze majority area in Suwaida Governorate in southern Syria, which has resulted in dozens of casualties, including among civilians. He is disturbed by reports of arbitrarily killings of civilians, sectarian incitement, and the looting of private property. He condemns all violence against civilians, especially acts that risk inflaming sectarian tensions. The Secretary General urges the interim authorities and local leaders to immediately de-escalate and to protect civilians, to restore calm, and of course to prevent any further incitement to violence. He further urges the interim authorities to transparently and openly investigate and hold to account those responsible for what we have seen.
The attacks marked an intense escalation between Israel's military and the newly installed Islamist-led government of President Ahmed al-Sharaa. Despite warming ties between Damascus and Washington, mere days after President Donald Trump signed an executive order lifting most sanctions targeting Syria in the aftermath of former President Bashar al-Assad's toppling by a coalition of rebel groups in December last year. Listen to the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
We're talking to both sides, all of the sides of these, and hopefully can bring it to a conclusion, but we're very concerned.
The UN also expressing concern about Israeli violations of Syria's sovereignty, as Dujarric explained.
The Secretary General is also concerned by Israel's airstrikes on Syrian territory and calls on Israel to refrain from violations of Syria's independence, its sovereignty, and its territorial integrity. The Secretary General underscores it is imperative to support a credible, orderly, and inclusive political transition in Syria in line with the key principles of Security Council Resolution 2254.
Syrian government troops were dispatched to the Zuwaida region on Monday to quell fighting between Druze fighters and Bedouin armed men, but ended up clashing with the Druze militias themselves, as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sought to justify their cross-border incursions.
We are also operating in Syria. We have an obligation to maintain the southwestern region of Syria as a demilitarized zone bordering Israel. We will not allow a return to a situation where a second Lebanon is being established there, and we are also obligated to protect the Druze residents. We are doing this through intense operations. I hope we will not have to operate anymore. It depends very much on what is understood and done, and also what is not done in Damascus.
As the UN warns of dire humanitarian consequences in Syria's south.
Our humanitarian partners in Suwaida report that medical services are overstretched and that markets and basic services such as electricity, water, education have been disrupted. UN aid operations are still suspended in the impacted areas as movements along the main roads are disrupted, but we're mobilizing to be able to respond once again as the situation allows it.
Syria's foreign ministry condemned the Israeli strikes, calling it a criminal act that constituted a blatant violation of the country's sovereignty. Syria's government says the Israeli attacks come at a calculated moment, aimed in its view at undermining its national stability and striking at Syrian unity at a critical juncture, at which it is seeking to emerge from the aftermath of years of war. Syrian state television and a leader of the Druze community have since confirmed that a new ceasefire arrangement had been reached after a similar agreement on Tuesday collapsed within hours. I'm Shervin Bricepies in New York.
Well, it is that time of the day where we say happy Thursday and good afternoon to Matsuko, the Upside team. You're here. How are you today?
I'm here. And, can I just say, I think I'm very excited that the winter in the Southern Hemisphere came very quickly.
Yeah.
And it also feels like it's going to leave just as quickly. So I'm very excited about that.
Do you know what? I'm not too sure about that because the past couple of years, we've been having cold spells all the way into September. So
actually,
yeah. So
now that you call them cold spells, we may just be hit with another one.
So yeah. So what's coming up today on The Upside?
Okay, the upside, as per, we're here from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. Central African time. We're going to be looking at childhood trauma. I think matters of psychology are very important for our healing continent. So we're going to look at ways to treat and talk about childhood trauma. What is that, how to identify it, and how to move forward in your adulthood. Also, something to note is the Red Apple solo art exhibition. It's by a celebrated Congolese-born South African-based artist, and it's going to be happening in one of the popular galleries in Cape Town very soon. So if you want to find out all about that, please stay listening. That will be in the golden hour of the show. We always look at other artistic expressions like fashion on a Thursday. So we're going to possibly be crossing over to Malawi to speak to one very talented fashion designer. We'll keep the name as a surprise because we want you to stay listening.
All right, that's all coming up at the top of the hour on The Upside with Matsiko Musito and Tebohole Kuleni. And from myself and the Africa Update team, it's been a great day. Continue with us on our social media platforms. And from the team, that's Tracy Bumgard, our producer, our technical operator, Katu Madaba, and social media, Elaine Bengani. It's been a great day. Let's do this again tomorrow. And tomorrow's Friday. Yay. Goodbye.